So now I want to sort of get into the relationship a little bit more. We talk to a lot of folks that some of them love their distributor partners. Some of them, express some concerns with the way their brands are being handled. There's always sort of that fear from smaller brewers. Are distributors brand collecting? Am I going to get lost in the shuffle? Dave, I was just there at your guys' space earlier today, and I mean, you have a huge refrigerated space with pretty much Deschutes and
a lot of Deschutes beer in there.
A lot of Deschutes beer in there, and you guys are refrigerating a space well beyond what you need for storage right now. So obviously, you're planning for some pretty serious growth in craft, especially within just your book. Mm-hmm. I guess, how do you guys make sure that every brand gets the attention it deserves, and maybe the brewers here or the brewery representatives here can talk about some of the concerns that you guys have when you work with distributors?
Sure. I think that every distributor will tell everybody that they want to treat every brewery or supplier, whatever they're selling, they're going to treat them all the same. Everybody's an A, level brewery. We wouldn't take you on unless we can treat this brewery the same as we treat Deschutes, And there's some truth to that, but again, they all are handled differently. And I think that there are a lot of brand acquirers out there. There are a lot of people who just want to put SKUs in there. The Wirtz family's been really supportive of us being picky. We've turned down a whole lot more breweries than we've taken on, and we'll probably continue to do that. But I'm an awful person to probably have the breweries have to face, because I'm probably as critical as anybody in the world that I know of. It's a curse I have that I will rip apart your beer for you, but we'll be very specific about who we pick up. It's going to have to be quality. We're not acquiring. At some point, yes, we have to make enough money to pay for the 30,000 square foot refrigerator that's 45 feet tall. But and for the as we grow, we'll add more refrigerated vehicles and all that stuff. So, and more staff, all this stuff. Like everything in craft beer, some breweries are going to grow rapidly, some are going to grow a little slower. We've been on a pretty fast trajectory here, and we'll see how things go. But Wirtz family's been really supportive of how we're moving. So,
and from the brewery representatives, biggest concerns when you guys start building that relationship with the distributor. I mean, what are some of the things that you're really driving their way and saying, this needs to happen or else?
First and foremost is, rotating the beer, making sure that, the beer in the market is in code. That's a huge thing for Oscar Blues. That's a number one, that our cans that are out there in the market are in that 120-day code. I'm out at the warehouse probably 3 times a month, if not, every Friday, once a week, touching the beer, looking at what's going on, making sure it's rotated, communicating with sales reps when we do find out-of-code beer, educating our buyers about the beer, constantly turning the can over, keep an eye on it when it comes in, We do the same thing at tastings, when I'm hand selling in a Binny's on a Friday night, I'm showing the customers, when you buy Oscar Blues beer, look at the bottom of the can. It's got the can on date. As long as it's in that that 120, we're happy. So that's primary concern. Yeah.
About for you?
It's quality for sure. Quality is a number one for us in the market, because if someone is picking up Deschutes for the first time or for the 30th time, you want it to taste good, because the first time it doesn't taste good, they're going to turn away from the brands.
Right.
And that's one of the things that Words, has committed to Deschutes is delivering quality every time.
Yeah, that's the last thing we would want is for anybody to try especially somebody that's a craft beer, just getting into the scene, just getting into craft beer. If they try our beer and it's out of code and they have a bad experience, they're never going to go back to that product. It's imperative to have the highest quality, freshest product we can in the market. We want the new craft fans to experience great fresh beer. That's a huge concern.
So is this the kind of support that you're looking for as a distributor, Dave, or are you looking for other things from the brewery itself? I'm thinking maybe like POS items or promos or incentives for your sales guys. I mean, what else are you guys looking for beyond just them picking up the cans and making sure they're fresh?
Yeah.
Bottles, I guess, in the case of the case. Well, cans soon.
I think that Chad had touched on how important FaceTime is. So these guys are out in the marketplace all the time, getting in front of the customers, and I think that's probably the most important role they have. Obviously, being field quality assurance or quality control is important. Checking date codes and rotating and making sure that some of the bigger accounts that buy a lot of beer aren't buying too much beer at one time.
Good point.
But in terms of POS, I mean, how much is this convincing you guys to buy that beer right now? Probably none of you are drinking that this minute, but
I don't know. As a side note, I don't know if it's on tap up here. So
it's on video. It's on video. It's no. No, I mean not because they don't make great beer, but did this convince you to buy it? Is the point? POS has its moments, and giving away a glass that says Oscar Blues or Deschutes on it might convince somebody to buy the beer at a Benny's or Whole Foods or wherever it is. They take it home and they drink their lemonade out of it and they go, oh yeah, I'm at the store. I remember that stuff. But it's lower on the list for me.
Sure. So if it's not a Deschutes glass that the customer's taking home at a tasting on a Friday night at Benny's, what is it for you guys that's really helping drive the awareness of a brand? Is it social media? Is it just the repetitive sort of get out there and touch the actual end consumer? I guess when you guys keep saying, talk to the customer, I don't know if that's the retailer or the end customer, the person that's actually buying the beer.
Yeah. I mean, talking to your retailer and educating your retailer is just as important as educating your end consumer, the guy that's taking that six-pack home. For Oscar Blues, POS is a big part of our program with distributors. We like to put up tackers. We like to put up signage. In agreement with Dave, I mean, is it really gonna, some guy gonna look at a Dale's Pale Ale tacker and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get that beer right now, Is it that influential? No, I think it can be. I think it is part of building a brand. But ultimately, being in touch with, your on-premise and your off-premise buyers, and ultimately your end consumer, your guys at the bar, having a pint, or whoever's picking up a six-pack and taking it home for the week. We want to influence those people and educate them.
Yeah, relationships building, samplings. Especially with craft beer. Craft beer it's so important that are you going to pay $9.99 for a six-pack if you've never had a beer? So if you're sampling the beer, at Deschutes, we feel that's all we need to do is once you sample it, you're gonna buy it because it's great quality. And it's getting back to that, not to beat it with a dead horse, but it's that quality that we've been talking about, and that's the most key.
So speaking of sampling, there seems to be some concern among some folks in the space about sort of the sampling that happens at on-premise accounts that have rotational draft models. You're in one day, you're out the next, and a lot of breweries, you know, they've told us that it's really hard to build a brand in that environment where your tap handle just, for whatever reason, it doesn't stick because the guy down the street that's local and new and the shiny new penny is coming in with, you know, something barrel aged or something funky, and you know the retailer might see great margins on a keg, and if they just kept it on, they would continue seeing those great margins and that pull through. But they want the shiny new penny. What are your guys' thoughts on rotational draft business models at the on-premise level?
I think that deep down, I don't think there's any bar owner that wants to rotate all their handles all the time and deal with a whole bunch of different distributors and all that. If they had steady handles all the time that sold very well, they'd probably be really happy with that. So it goes back to educating the customer, educating the staff, doing staff trainings, getting FaceTime with these people. So it's, you know, the buyers are going to listen to suggestions. Back to beer quality, you know, obviously if the quality's there, they should be willing to keep it on. The incentives they may get are, you know, if you've got a Dale's Pale Ale handle or a Mirror Pond handle on all the time, you're probably first in line to be getting the Abyss or the Barrel Aged 1050 or something, and you know, the guy that doesn't carry your beer or gal isn't gonna probably get looked at for the specialty stuff. So
yeah, that's very true. I mean, support is going to bring you know, those bells and whistles from the brewery. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, you know, they only want those specialties. Well, the specialties don't keep the lights on at the brewery. You know, the core brands keep the lights on at the brewery, and I think that's the three of us are up here fighting for. You know, I'm fighting for Dale's Mama's Chub every day. You know, those are my core brands. You know, the elusive permanent tap handle in the Chicago market. You know, it's tough. It's really wild too when you go to, you know, when I spent time in the Denver market with OB sales team. You have a different commitment out there. There's people that, like, Colorado drinks Colorado beer. You know, people put on Dales and they keep it on. You know, I see that a lot in my travels with Windy City, being out on the West Coast. You know, with Lagunitas and Stone trips. You see different markets treat core brands a lot differently. There's a higher level of commitment. You know, in Chicago we have so many brands, and there's new stuff popping up all the time, and it's really exciting. I can't blame somebody for rotating. You know, I understand that. I was a buyer once too. I had my core brands that I kept on, but you know, I'd say I was guilty of always trying new stuff and keeping my customer excited. How do you execute keeping a permanent tap handle? I mean, we've said relationship a million times tonight, and that's really what it comes down to. Your staff education, getting them really excited about it. You know, it's got to move. It's got to be profitable for the account. You know, I think Deschutes and Oscar Blues does that with our pricing and the quality of liquid we have in the market. I wish I had A, B, and C on how to lock in a solid handle and keep it there for 3 years, and not, you know, have a buyer go, oh man, that Dale's Pale was awesome. We blew that keg in like 3 days. And then you're like, sweet, let's order up another one. And they're like, no, I'm gonna try, you know, I'm gonna do something else. You know, it's how do you do that? It's time and effort. You know,
Yeah.
it's just
We can't
keep going.
We can't dictate what the retailer is going to do.
Absolutely
It's their
not.
business.
Yeah.
You know, the relationship, continuing to stay relevant and being in the account, building those relationships is going to keep you maybe on that rotation so you can continue. And that's not all a bad thing either. Having a rotating, something that's rotating so people can sample new things. And, you know, we can't dictate what they do. So being on that rotation is something, you know, that relationship is going to build.
So I'll stay on premise for this question, and I guess it's something that maybe it's something that only I'm seeing chatter out there on the Twitter and everything else. There's always talk, for whatever reason, about the Chicago market and some of the perhaps pay-to-play tactics that happen at bars. I think Greg Cook has been pretty vocal about it in the past. Perhaps maybe even Tony from Lagunitas, I'm not sure. But there's been some guys who have made some off remarks in the past. Is that a problem in this market? And is it a problem for craft brewers looking to build sort of the brand of craft as a whole? And I don't know, what are your thoughts on pay-to-play at the on-premise?
Never heard of it.
Go.
Pay to what?
No, I mean, I think these are tactics that are old school tactics from the macro breweries, from even from wine and spirits sometimes. But it's something that needs to be, if all the distributors could band together and say definitively no one will ever, do this stuff, then it would be great. But, we don't, when it comes to craft beer, I think that's a little bit different. Craft beer has been, there's a lot more people who are vocal about it and calling other people out and saying, no, we don't buy tap handles. We don't give away free kegs. It just doesn't happen, The beer speaks for itself. If you don't want it, I'll just sell it to someone else. But there are accounts that ask all the time, and there needs to be some force combined against these people to make them stop asking and make the macro lager breweries stop giving them stuff.
Are you guys doing anything about it?
We're pretty new to the craft beer at this distributorship. We just won't participate in it, but that's it at this point. I mean, I'd love to, at some point work with others to try to do something about it, but it's a massive, project that I can't even imagine undertaking, really.
And I'm just tossing this out there. What about leveraging some of the wine and spirits that you guys offer these guys, and maybe cutting some of that off if they continue to not put the craft on that you guys are offering them?
Man, I don't even know how to answer that stuff. I mean, what allows us to have a 30,000 square foot refrigerator now is some spirits. So
don't want to mess around with it too much.
But as long as the craft beer division stays true to the values, then that's all I can ask for.
I think it was a bigger problem years ago too. I think it was a lot more prevalent in the market, and it's started to thin out a little bit. And more buyers are, they're savvier. Your bar opening up these days, they're kind of already into the craft beer. A lot of these people they're smart business people. They're savvy. They know better to get involved in those sort of practices. Does it still go on? I'm sure it does on certain levels. What can I do to fight it? Keep doing what I'm doing and not participate in that sort of practice. I had the fortune of coming from a pedigree of the Map Room. Worked there for 9 years, and Laura Blassingame, God bless her, she was always adamant about not taking deals, not taking free beer. We sell beer because it's a great beer. That's what we're here to do. And then from there, I transitioned to Windy City, where that was the philosophy. We sell great craft beer on its merits, and why would we give it away? I mean, you have people that have given up. They've given everything. They're pouring their heart and soul into their brewery. The list goes. Is endless. Anderson Valley, Bear Republic, Oscar Blues, Stone, Lagunitas. Why would they give that beer away? It's there for everybody to enjoy and make a profit legally, legitimately.
Right.
So that's kind of my background. So it's.
Now, I think that maybe I'm wrong. It would be safe to assume that a lot of those things probably happens at the 85% sort of group of, not the craft beer bar owners, not your really high-end places that care about the quality and clean their lines, and they want to pay for the beer and they want to support these brands. And that sort of leads me to my next question, which is, what are you guys doing collectively, brewers and distributors together, or brewery representatives and distributors together, to tap into that 85%? And it probably is more, but I mean, if you look at the craft volume overall nationwide, it's like, what, 6.5% or something like that of all beer. And if you factored in, some of the CBA and even the Blue Moons and the Shock Tops of the world of the sort of higher end beers, that number quickly approaches 10%. What are you guys doing to tap into that other 90 and gain tap handles and gain sort of the mind share in that realm and from that consumer that might be just the macro lager drinker?
Well, as old school as buying a tap handle is, it still comes down to relationship building. You can still build relationships at every account in order to gain tap handles. You don't need to buy tap handles. We make great beer, and in the on-premise, what all retailers are looking for is beer that's going to sell, beer that's going to get pull. I happen to have several brands that get very good pull, so it's relationship building and quality beers again that are going to pull will end up winning at the end of the day.
So how do you create that pull?
These guys both have good price points, for some of those places that are starting to flirt with craft beer.
So pricing is key.
I think for some of them it is to
yeah.
get in the door. We distribute to the entire state of Illinois, so some of those outlying accounts that are transitioning are very loyal. They don't get a lot of face time. If Gavin gets out there, and somebody's likely to enjoy craft beer that's a staff member, so they pick up one of the beers and they'll probably stay on tap there for a long time. Those are some of the methods. It's hard to convert everybody, but we don't need to convert everybody.
So I'll ask one final question, and then we'll open it up to some audience questions. And if you guys don't want to tweet at me using the hashtag BrewTalks for all our live stream viewers back home, somebody will come up here and grab this thing, and we'll pass it around. But my final question for you guys, and you guys can each answer it individually. What are you guys doing to bring new consumers into the category? And I know it sounds similar to the last question. The last question was more, what do you do to tap into the 90% of those retailers that are still new to craft? What are you guys actually doing to bring a brand new consumer into the category and keep them there?
We have some bridge beers. I call them bridge beers, beers that a light lager drinker, when you have a drinkable wheat beer or our Black Butte Porter is an extremely drinkable porter. So, when we offer it to those drinkers, we say, drink with your mouth, don't drink with your eyes, because a lot of people are afraid of those darker beers. And that's what Black Butte Porter is for us. It's a gateway into craft beer. As well as some of the other brands. We just launched Deschutes River Ale, not in this market yet, but we launched it in our home markets, and that's a 3%, 3-4% beer that's extremely drinkable. So that's going to be able to bring people into the category.
Styles.
Styles, yeah.
Is that all I needed to say?
That's just so my writer can write that down instead of texting over there. Max, I see you. Dave?
The stuff we've been saying over and over, freshness, making sure that the beer's, like the brewer intended, when it's in their glass. If you're trying to sell them some out-of-date beer, they're probably not going to be lifelong fans. And education, whether it's staff education or talking to people in the marketplace. So.
Yeah, I agree with these guys. It again comes down to quality education, and also working, continuing to work closely with the distributor. And, it's something that we have a lot of focus on this year is getting into some more chains, kind of that bigger picture, the Jewel Oscos, educating that consumer and getting them on board with craft beer. More and more people are out there, willing to spend a few more bucks on quality as opposed to doing the same ho-hum, fizzy yellow that they've been doing for years and years. There's a lot more excitement about craft out there, so tap into those markets.
Well, there's certainly a lot of innovation in the space, a lot of growth in the category, an exciting or perhaps overwhelming amount of new breweries coming online. So the space will definitely be fun to watch over the next few years, and I know I'm excited to be a part of it, and I'm sure you guys are as well. Thank you for joining me, and now we'll take some time for audience questions. There are some folks here. I know I've seen the Goose Island folks and a bunch of new faces here tonight, so you guys are much smarter than I am. Ask away. If you guys have questions, we can run this over to you.